Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Ron, and today I will be repotting my new Monstera Thai Constellation. So several weeks ago, my partner got this plant for my birthday as an early birthday present. My birthday isn't until February 24th. When I received this plant, these were the 3 leaves, and then this one was still unfurling. And as you can see now, it has unfurled all the way. And look at that blocky variegation. It looks so pretty. Like this one is pretty too, because it's still got that blocky variegation and then some. Yeah, I love this plant so much. I didn't think I would like the Monstera Thai Constellation this much. At first, I didn't really care for it because I actually liked the Monstera elbow more, because the elbow, the variegation on that one is pure white. Whereas this one, if you put this next to the elbow, you can see that the variegation on here is actually like a creamy yellow. And like aesthetically, I would prefer the white and green versus the cream and green. But I mean, it probably looks white to you already. On camera, it looks just as pretty. I think it's time for this plant to be repotted, because when I first showed this plant on my channel, this aerial root right here was barely digging into the soil. But now, as you can see, it's gotten all the way down to the bottom, and then I think it's like wrapping in a circle. But also all the other roots in there, they're like so tangled. So we're gonna unpot this plant and then see what everything looks like. I am like 99% sure they're all healthy roots, so that is all good signs. This plant has been in my Millsville wide downstairs ever since I got it, and it's been really thriving in there. Like the leaves on here are super thick and firm. Yeah, I feel like this is a very healthy plant. So let's continue that by repotting it. Lucky for you, I don't have enough premixed soil to repot this plant, so I'm gonna be mixing the soil for you guys so you can see exactly what goes in it. Let me just show you the ingredients that I have right now. I have peat moss. This is gonna serve as pretty much the base for my Aroid mix. And the reason why I like peat moss is because it tends to be more acidic in nature over time. And that's really good if you use your tap water to water your plants, because tap water can be very alkaline. And tropical plants especially, they prefer an acidic environment. So the peat moss will help to counter the alkaline that's in my tap water. The other thing you have to watch out if you do use peat moss is that it does tend to hold more moisture than normal. So use this sparingly, but also don't let it dry out too much, because it can get very hydrophobic, meaning when it dries, it gets very like crusty towards the top of the soil. That will kind of limit the amount of moisture that it'll absorb, because it's like a film at the top. So you have to poke the soil in order to like make it more, I don't know, airy, so that water will be able to penetrate. So this is the number 1 ingredient that I'll be using. I'm also gonna be adding some pumice. Here I have like very chunky pumice, so that'll help create a very airy mix, which I love. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of sphagnum moss. We all know what that is. Charcoal. Charcoal kind of helps to like filter the nasty bacteria from growing. It also prevents like odor causing bacteria. I also have worm poop. This is pretty much a must have. I think this is the last thing, is my almost empty container of coconut husk. Also, I'm going to be repotting the plant into this 4-inch white nursery pot, which is very light and airy. It has big holes in the bottom. So I think this plant is really gonna love the combination of the airy mix that I'm about to make, as well as the light and airy pot that I'm gonna be using. Let's go in for the closer look so you can see exactly how much of each ingredient I'll be using today. Okay, welcome to the closer look. So if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that I don't really have like a precise measurement to my mix. I just kind of eyeball everything. So let's start with the peat moss. And as you can see, my container is almost empty from my previous mix. So I always start with the peat moss because that's the ingredient that I have the most of in the mix, and I'm gonna be basing everything off of that amount. So then the next one will be pumice, and I'm gonna try to go like half of the amount of peat moss. Something like that. And then sphagnum moss, this kind of helps to make everything fluffy. I usually do like half the pumice, kind of like that. And it helps to kind of break up the fibers a little bit more, especially if you have long fiber sphagnum moss. And then next will be the worm poop. And this one, I'm gonna try to do half of the sphagnum moss. You can kind of see that there's a trend here. Every ingredient that comes after the previous is gonna be 50%, pretty much. And then finally, charcoal. But I'm forgetting one more ingredient. But the charcoal is gonna be almost the same as the worm castings. The ingredient that I forgot is the coconut husk right here. And this is probably gonna be the same amount as the pumice. So together, the pumice and the coconut husk will create a super chunky mix. So something like that, right? Let's give it a quick stir and then see how chunky it is, and then you'll have a better idea. Okay, so there you go. That's pretty much my Aroid mix. And then depending on how I feel, and of course, depending on the type of roots that the plant has, I may add a little bit more of one ingredient. In this case, I think I'm gonna add a little bit more chunkiness. So I could either go with the sphagnum moss or the coconut husk or the pumice, because those are all chunky ingredients. But for this one, I feel like going with more coconut husk. Okay, I think this is a perfect mix. You can see how all of the chunky bits in there help to break apart the peat moss. Okay, now we're gonna take this baby out of this plastic container, plastic sleeve, whatever this is. And it looks like it's pretty much sphagnum moss and perlite in here. But I'm hoping everything comes out easily because I don't want to mess up the roots too much and possibly shock the plant. Nobody likes that, right? So it looks green because this is a translucent container. So it lets in light, and light promotes the growth of algae. So what you're seeing here is green algae, which is not harmful, but too much algae can actually, I don't know, compete with the main plant. So if you saw my Monstera obliqua video that I posted, that was a lot of algae in the container that it was in with the perlite. Was it perlite or pumice? One of those. I mean, the plant was still growing, but it was throwing out really long leafless nodes. And I feel like it has to do with the amount of algae that was in the container. So I had to do an emergency repot with that one. And it hasn't really shown signs of new growth just yet. But I mean, I think it's doing better. I did put it into my Millsbow wide downstairs. But it's still going to be a few weeks before I see any new signs of growth. So we will see. But with this one, it's barely like a shade of light green. So I think this is fine. Plus the roots in here look amazing. Let me show you a close-up. Yummy. So I'm gonna try to just loosen it up a little bit. Whatever falls out of this mass, I'm just gonna mix into my soil. The main thing I'm worried about is there's a lot of sphagnum moss and perlite within the center of this root ball. And if I don't like get in there and separate all of the roots, that's all it's ever going to be exposed to. It won't necessarily have all of the nutrients that will come from this, because if I just pot it up like this, which I think might not be a bad idea, because the roots will grow outwards and then fill in the pot and fill in the soil. But because the 4-inch pot that I'm using is small, it's not going to have a lot of roots or room to expand in growth. So I really want to see if I can actually get into the middle of this. So we'll be very careful. Okay, so I've got the bottom pretty much loose, but I'm just gonna use my finger to tickle the bottom a little bit, just to loosen up all of this sphagnum moss. It looks like the sphagnum moss in here is like blended for some reason because it's so fine. I don't know, it's weird. Is this some kind of like strategy that people use these days? See, it's like not very fibrous at all like this. This is like the typical sphagnum moss structure, right? But this is like, it's like dust. See how everything's just falling apart? Interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. It looks kind of hollow at this point. See? So I'm hoping when I repot it, like the soil in here will just help to penetrate that. That way the roots will benefit from all of this good stuff that's in here. But I'm gonna try to also remove some from the top because it looks ugly. Okay, so part of the challenge when repotting your plant is knowing when to say good enough, because you're gonna get carried away and you're gonna mess with the roots too much and then you're gonna shock the plant. But here, it's good enough. So as you can see, a lot of the sphagnum moss, perlite pieces fell into here. So I'm just gonna mix it all in. Shouldn't be a problem because there wasn't any like mold growth or anything. So let's set you aside. And I want to fill in the bottom of this pot with a little bit of sphagnum moss. Just enough to cover the holes so that soil doesn't come out. just like so. Oh, where's my stick? I'm grabbing the stick with my foot. Okay, so I'm adding this bamboo stick with, whoa. Now I'm using the stick to grab the Velcro. I basically just removed all the sphagnum moss that I put in here because this is pretty deep already. But that's okay because the mix is very chunky anyway, so I don't think any soil will be spilling out from the holes in the bottom. But essentially, I want this to be deep enough so that I'm able to cover all of this with some additional soil. And I think that's good enough. Then we'll add our bamboo stick to the side here. And then we can fill it in. Looks like I made way too much soil for this. So I know the inside of the root ball was pretty hollow before I put it in here. So I'm gonna try to get as much of the finer pieces of soil and then kind of shove it in there. And then completely watering it in afterwards. Okay, I think that looks good enough. Ta-da! Adding the final touch. Okay. She's done. How did I do? Now, let's go downstairs actually to the kitchen so I can completely water the soil in and then put it back, put her back into my Millsbo wide. All right, I'm here in my kitchen, but look at this food. That's shoyu chicken. Do you know what shoyu is? That's Hawaiian soy sauce. And then I already set some aside here. Actually, Josh set some aside here for my lunch for tomorrow. Aw, so sweet. Kamsahamnida. That's Korean for thank you. Okay, anyway, here is the plant. And it really helps if you have a hose attachment in your sink. And make sure it's not too cold, not too hot. I think that'll do. We're just gonna carefully water it in. Oops. I'm just trying to let the water push all of the soil into the cracks. Okay, I think that is good enough. Just one more final spray. Clean off the pot. Okay. And then, of course, clean the sink because we are not slobs on this channel. Ta-da! Okay, we're done. Now we can put her back in her home. Excuse me, Elbow. There's a new queen in the house. There. Ta-da! Oh, also, sorry, Elbow, but I know she has like a very pretty leaf about to unfurl. Let me show you. Oh yeah, look at that. So I thought this plant was like very dormant, and because of the fact that it's in a concrete planter, I feel like, because someone said in the comments in my previous video that concrete planters might leach lime into the soil, and that could have negative effects on the growth of your plant. But ever since I put this one in this Millsbo, like that one is starting to unfurl rapidly. Before it was barely, the lump was there, so I knew the leaf was pregnant this whole time. But it took a a couple months for it to actually come out of the sheath. And there are a couple more leaves on here that are pregnant, like that one. And then that one in the back, and then another one. They're like all so close to popping out, but ooh, that one has a good amount of fenestrations. Yeah, right there, that's a fenestration. Anyway, no, Albo, you're not the star of this video. The Thai constellation is. Can't really see in the video, but she looks happy. All of these plants in here look happy, actually. But anyway, that's about it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please do hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't yet already, plant scribe. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.